Chad Durbin is a weekly here on Off the Bench. Spent 13 years in the show. He was drafted out of high school in Woodlawn to play in the major leagues. But he's a huge sports fan. Durbs, T-Bob said that was the high for him in 2019 as far as sporting events went. Actually, he said it was the best sporting event of his life that he's watched. LSU Bama 2019. How'd you take it in, and what did it mean to you?
Yeah, I watched it at the house with some folks, and I don't know if I might have had a smile on my face the whole time. There was never really that moment where you're like, well, other than the first drive for them, where you're like, ooh, I know we're going to score, or I think we're going to score. I can't see us not scoring 40 points or whatever. But they came down and made it look pretty easy on the first couple plays, and then we just kept popping them in the mouth. It was like watching guys hit double after double after double against a pitcher you thought was going to shut you down, for my baseball mind. And you just start to gain. I gained so much confidence there. You felt like there was nobody in the country that could beat us after that. It wasn't even close. And the flex at the end, having those guys run over to the recruits and just tell them, hey, man, you need to rethink. You need to rethink your life.
Love to see it.
So good.
Fantastic. That was. I mean, LSU fan since we moved down here in 1990. Really plugged in as I became, a professional athlete. And got to work out at LSU and see those guys, how hard they work, and appreciate that kind of professionalism out of the guys that leave. To see that on the field and see the reaction, because social media is what it is, from our guys that are in the professional ranks or have already retired. That was a collective, flex collectively with everybody. I mean, it was just a really cool moment for all LSU fans.
Oh, I agree. I just went on a bachelor party with a bunch of Bama fans, and it was incredible. I just got to talk trash to them the entire time, make fun of them, and tell them to STTDB constantly. It was just a dream come true, Chad. But you were go on
real quick. The only thing I missed about it was 2019 instead of it being 2008 or 2009, being in a clubhouse with guys from all over the country who claim their teams are the best, and they talk trash appropriately. So when we don't score, just tell them. And for me, I would have been the most annoying teammate all year. It would have been absolutely annoying. So I missed that. I wanted to be that guy where I'm sitting in their seat when they walk out. Oh, I'm sorry, got my LSU gear on, sorry, and just take off. So I did miss that, but I know a bunch of guys that went ahead and did that for me. So it's pretty cool.
Chad, so we do have some MLB news to talk about. In fact, quite a bit, as the MLB, one of the kind of floaters that they've put out there is they're looking at maybe getting underway in May, or I guess the talk is that they would go to Arizona, sequester themselves, sequester the entire league, play at all the fields in Arizona. I'll start here. You're a longtime major leaguer. Would you be willing to sequester yourself basically in a hotel room or on a baseball field away from your family for 4.5 months?
So I think the theory versus application thing that goes on here, in theory, the guys that don't have families, the guys that don't have pregnant wives, that they're going to leave and not be able to go back and see, the amount of, from a baseball operations standpoint, it's a whole nother ballgame. I don't know how they would pull it off. It is a whole lot bigger behind the scenes, kind of like the iceberg thing. You see a little 10% of it, 2% of it. There's so much more going on. I can't see, what are you going to do to a Zach Wheeler with the Phillies, whose wife's going to have a baby in May? What does he have to leave for 14 days? When he comes back, there's so many processes that would need to be put in place, and that guy will happily, hey, I'll give up my 2 weeks paychecks because and that affects your ability to go win baseball games. Take the extra, in my opinion, I don't think it works. You take the extra 2-4 weeks, and if it's 20 games you got to give up, if it's 25 games you got to give up, so what?
Yeah.
Everybody understands. Don't put everybody in that type of situation, because if you say no to an organization, there's a stamp on you for the next 10 years of your career. Man, this guy bucked the system. This guy, there's just a lot more to it than just saying, hey, we want to get games in. Man, I commend them for trying to find a way. But this isn't the way. And I said it right away when they were starting to, I think it was right around March 15th, when the news was coming out every other day. This is getting shut down. NBA is not going to play. And MLB still had their guys in spring training, but they had told everybody non-essential staff to go ahead and go. Tell your families, the extended family, to go ahead and leave. Keep your family here. But other than our major leaguers, our 40-man roster, everybody else can go home or stay at their hotel. And I said, well, the solution here, if it doesn't get serious as it did, is to go ahead and play in your spring training site. You already have it controlled to some level, and let's go ahead and start playing games. And then it got a little more serious, and the governors came out and the president came out and said we're shutting things down. But full circle back to it, I can't imagine a scenario where all 1,200 guys or 700 plus that end up on, because the rosters would be different too. You'd have to have, because we'd be speeding towards getting out there. Starters wouldn't be able to go, the length that they need to be able to go. So it's just a very, I guess it's complicated on top of complicated. I think they should just wait.
So, okay, so it kind of sounds like, I mean, are you punting on this baseball season, Chad, in your big leader view?
No, not at all.
Okay.
I really, look, data science is not my forte, but the more I read about it, the more I dig in and try not to listen to the noise. As the curve flattens and as we get on the other side of it, they'll start to, tear off and implement, business and we'll get back to work. And, that's the most important thing, getting the economy up and running. Look, sports, if you play an 80 game season, so be it. It's still baseball. Guys still get paid. They still get their time from that standpoint, which is very important to the union. And the owners you're not going to make it. It's going to cost more money to play games out there than they're going to, push out. So it doesn't make sense on that side of things. I know we want to lead. Look, we led after 9/11. It was us and the NFL saying, all right, let's start playing ball. Let's give them an escape. And we all went out, and it didn't feel like normal baseball at all. It wasn't as important, and games won't feel quite as important right away until we get rolling. The playoffs and that stretch going into it would be enormously important. And then I would love for baseball to go deep into the fall, because I'm now greedy for sports to have, the PGA, the NBA, the NFL, MLB, everybody playing nonstop every day, all the way through the weekend. Man, I want that. I want to go to walk-ons, or I want to go to a sports book, and I just want to watch every major sporting event going on at the same time.
It's definitely given me a new appreciation on things once we do get back to that normal, right? A lot of things we maybe took for granted. One of those things, Chad, are having fans at games. Drew Brees touched on this on Ellen. He's like, I can't really imagine it. I mean, it's where I get my juice from. As a professional athlete, how do you think you would have reacted if you had to go out there and perform with no fans in the stadium?
Well, I played in Kansas City and Cleveland. Really bad.
So you lived it.
So I don't know. I mean, it is really hard. I mean, just kind of jokingly saying that, but you do feed off of that. To have 45,000, 50,000 people in the stands, whether you're on the road or at home, man, it fuels you. Running out and getting booed, or running out and or walking off a field after getting a big punch out or a big pop out, and feeling, them screaming and yelling and the place moving under your feet. There's nothing like that, and you can't simulate that. Yeah. I say this to guys that are on these, the Rapsodo 3D radar tech, and they're trying to throw a ball as hard as they do in a game to get some readings. And no matter how hard I tried, I could not throw a ball over 90 miles an hour without a hitter in the box. And I don't know what it would be like to put Mike Trout in a box with no fans. I don't know if I could get it going, in my prime. I'm sure I would come close, but it's different when you feel that and you can hear that. You've been in front of 100,000 plus, T-Bob. Like it is so much easier to get that freaking engine going when you have those people screaming and yelling and you feel that passion. It's so much easier to get it going.
Hell yeah.
Durbs, I got 90 seconds. A bat used by New York Yankees legend Lou Gehrig was sold for over $1 million yesterday at a Dallas auction. It was used by him in 22. What's the best piece of memorabilia you have, and what's the most you would pay for a great piece of memorabilia? Would you buy that?
I would not buy that. I would let somebody else buy it that I know, and I would, check it out. I think it's cool. I've seen some really cool basements in my life. some owners of teams that have stuff that nobody should have. But my stuff is very personal. I wasn't a guy that went around and collected. I have a lot of stuff from our 08-09 teams that won a World Series and lost one because you're just pushed at you. But I have stuff like, Cal Ripken Jr.'s signature on a ball in a moment that, I met him after a game with Jeff Rabelais, and the conversation is attached to that. Bob Gibson, Al Kaline, who just passed away a couple days ago, who was the Mr. Tiger, Mr. K. Like, there are special pieces of memorabilia that I have that are attached to George Brett, just moments that I had in my career. So for me, I'm going to need to write down stories to go with those, because when I pass, when that happens inevitably, I would like those stories to be passed on to my kids' kids, or whoever wants to, hold on to that. I have a Justin Verlander no-hitter that I charted. I had to pitch the next day. I think that one's very unique because that's the only piece of chart that exists on that first no-hitter. So those are really cool pieces. But, the guys that do collect that stuff, I think it's awesome. Luke Gehrigs Bat from 22 is pretty unique.
Chad Durbin every Thursday here with us, man. Enjoy another week of quarantine. We'll talk to you next Thursday.
All right, guys. Stay safe.